from today's call want to bring or want to get? Like just a quick 30-second thing each. Starting, and I'll kind of direct a bit. Perhaps I'll go to the bottom of my screen and I've got Shez there, Cheryl Shez.
I feel like we should revisit our live meetup scenario for next week and what we feel after last session and how that's moving forward, because that's really important and alive at the moment. So yeah, that's me.
And coming up, there's Shezalena. I'm not used to calling you Shezalena. I'm trying.
It's funny, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's sort of, Karen mentioned, yeah, there was some question about going ahead with that, and we talked about it in the NVC hub, I think. So maybe there's something to report from there. Yeah. Yeah, I don't, since I'm not really firing on all cylinders, that's about all I can think of right now.
Yeah. And Karen?
Yeah, I'm holding really tenderly the fact that I have been torn about it, about moving ahead with the 15th, and I have had a couple of conversations where I've started to open that up with, you know, what would it be like if we didn't meet on the 15th and we actually waited until into the new year, where there might be a sense that all of those who might like to come could attend. So we made it more spacious, and so perhaps I could just report on a couple of those conversations and sort of where I'm up to now with some of the feedback that I've got so far. So I had a conversation that Shez and Irene were in, and I expressed to Irene that one of the reasons I'd moved the date for the gathering, the end of year gathering, from one Saturday to the other Saturday and then ended up on a Tuesday was primarily because I wanted to include Irene, and that was a strategy. It was a strategy to express to Irene how grateful I was that she held space for me to have the vision of the July retreat, and that she trusted me and encouraged me and said, oh, it sounds like a great idea. And then I went off and did it in such a sort of a state of enjoyment and trust, because she'd helped nudge me over from idea into action. That's one of her gifts. And I just really wanted to acknowledge her for that massive contribution to me this year. And in the previous 2 years in December, the small group of women who were calling ourselves Wise Women Rising last year and the year before had got together in December at Annie's yoga studio in Collingwood. And so I thought, well, I have to have one in December this year, surely. Like, I've done it 2 years in a row. It's a pattern now. I have to, and I should. And when I sat with Irene and Shez and Elena, and I said to Irene why it mattered to me that I'd really sort of not really included other people's availability in that decision to shift to the Tuesday the 15th, because for other people that was difficult. They were working, they were not, like for Jen and for Nat and for people who, and then for Barbara as well, it was difficult. And so it's just like it was almost like I had the sensation of squashing a square peg into a round hole, and that there wasn't a fit as much as I had imagined there should be. And then when I spoke about it to Annie, I had another conversation with Annie about the studio and about, you know, how was it for her that I was now having second thoughts, and whether or not perhaps part of the pushing for December as well is that Annie's studio is closing and we're not really sure when. And so she had made an open offer to Wise Women Rising, come and use the space while it's still here. Like, I'm pretty sure December will be right. We won't be closing until probably the new year. So, and so there was this another layer of like, oh, we should. And I got connected to her about that. And I said, like, what if we decided that our gathering was out in nature? What if we met at the river and put out blankets and brought our resting selves, and we just rested on the banks of the river, and maybe we could still Zoom in with our friends interstate, but there was just not as much agenda. Because what I noticed when I was starting to have these conversations, that I was having this sense of being scrunched in my shoulders because of attempting to try to meet lots of needs at once, or with a lot of strategies. So there was going to be Barbara and Kate's session that would be a breakout, and then there was going to be like a session from Jen on the new local and her learnings, the things she's excited to share with us. And then there was going to be another session from Annie to do a meditation deep dive in the body. And there was going to already, like, there was just this sort of a rising of like wonderful offerings, but a sense in me of like, I don't know how to schedule this. And that's what happened last week, was I had this meltdown of like, how do we do this and how do we schedule? And I tried to grab hold of this wheel with both hands of like, oh, we got to steer this car, it's out of control. So these are all stories I was telling myself. So since then, I've really just been letting go of like what my expectations were of having to do it in December, maybe, or even having to do the way we were talking about it. I felt like I was starting to squeeze myself towards the event in an uncomfortable way, and it didn't feel easeful. And I mourn, because I tell myself I was pushing hard for it based on all my shoulds and have tos, and that I haven't let it emerge the way I would have liked. And I still value all the offerings. Like, I really value the offerings, and I love what Shez is bringing about the soul canvas and the soul collage. And so I love all the offerings, and I'm open to hearing what might work. I actually want to hear from everybody what might work, and I'm prepared for it to take time. And to maybe on the 15th, it's a drop-in online thing, and it's simply to say good day. But one of the ideas was make the gathering in person the central thing. And that's something that did come out of last week. It's like Shez particularly saying, this is the first time that many of us are going to have met in person. And that's a really big transition to make. And then Shez Elena saying in the meeting with Irene, that's the central thing. Like, maybe we should just be having a women's circle where we just go gently and first get used to spending time in person with each other. And I thought that's been really gorgeous. That's really stuck with me. And that's enough words for now, but I'm not seeing that physical meeting happening on the 15th at this point in time. That's where I find myself.
Sounds like you've been juggling quite a few things, attempting to find a way that they will all knit together comfortably. Having a venue or a place that is easy, which I guess is what Annie's place offers, and Annie's place, of course, is a strategy for something like easy venue. Is one of the balls, and one of the balls is that there are some offerings that have been made, and you're looking for a holding container for them, some kind of event that they can happen in. And you're also juggling the lovely idea of people physically meeting for the first time, perhaps. And in all of that, there was, I think, originally too, this idea of sort of a celebration and review of the year, which in your mind had to be in the year, not after the year. And you've recognised that too. Yeah. And so I'm wondering if any sort of proposal or any sorts of ideas are starting to emerge at all.
Well, I think there's still some processing here, because part of me saying it's unprofessional, it's going to annoy people, like I've got a bit of jackling happening. I should have known all of this stuff before I started trying to produce an event for December. So I've got a bit of jackling that's being a little bit pushy on me. And I know I can see the gesture, Shez, and I'm grateful. I have this sense of like it's emerging and I'm finding this awareness as I go, and being gentle.
But the thing is, Karen, holding this space lovingly, the whole nature of what you originally talked about to me changed drastically. It became an event. When you originally talked to me about this, it was a small Christmas gathering, and suddenly it transformed into this totally different animal. And I came in halfway last week, and I came in with that memory of you talking about it in such a different way, from such a different place. And it shifted. Somewhere along the line, it shifted to an event. And my heart tells me that isn't what it was for you initially. It wasn't that. And I could be wrong, but it didn't feel like that at all.
Thank you. Gosh, that's beautiful to hear, that you had the essence of it from me initially. And, you know, my heart is definitely softening back into, it's just, I would love to see everybody. It's a totally different feeling, and it has so much more ease in it and gentleness. And it is much more of a reflective space of like, yeah, we have achieved quite a bit this year. We can celebrate what the connections and the new flourishing, the budding of new things that the space has allowed and encouraged. And I think there is a much more gentle, I don't think it is, certainly I went into a structured place because I got scared of being able to manage. Like, how are we going to fit all these beautiful offerings? How are we going to structure it so everybody fits and it works for everybody? Like, instead of trusting that, yeah, the open space type of, that's not my job. My job isn't to try to schedule it all, actually. My job is to hold the vision and hold the intention with clarity so that the offerings will just bubble up on the day. Like, if there's space made, then the ones for whom offering makes sense and feels most alive, I'm sure that they'll bubble. It'll bubble. So thanks for reminding me of that initial intention to just really create a space for connecting. Yeah. How is that for others to hear?
It's a new piece of information I didn't have about how you envisaged it and how you spoke of it initially. And Yeah, I guess where I am in my life right now, with just having had my shoulder surgery, I'm need ease and simplicity, and I mean, I may not be like this. I don't know how long I'll be in this place, but yeah, I appreciate that piece from Shez. Yeah, thanks.
My wondering is whether, if it does go ahead, to just say, let's forget the offerings. If we want to bring something to share one-on-one, and just make it a circle, and make it, and let us play cards and be playful with it, because an offering becomes an event. It becomes something more. There's that difference between busyness and being. I don't know. That's the sense I'm getting.
Between coming together to do something rather than coming together to be together.
Yeah.
I think there's something beautiful about, oh gosh, the puppies are going to be noisy. I think there's a delivery happening downstairs. There's something beautiful about that. I'm having that memory of, like, I think Irene brought the piece about having a little bit of structure to hold the container, and then having the open space in the middle of that for us to co-create in that. So I'm just revisiting that in my thoughts and thinking, well, we'd want to be clear what time, to when, and whether or not we can support the digital side. And my sense is that we'd only support the digital side if we're inside at Annie's, as opposed to being out on the banks of the river. I think bringing the digital piece might be more difficult unless we just did a phone call and we're able to pass the phone around. So Chris or Natalie, or, you know, friends that can't be there physically might be able to chat with us and enjoy the socializing as well. I do have a sense that that we have two events being talked about in the one space, and I think that's where, like, two types of events that are quite different, and that getting clarity is really, it's coming. Like, one is a very gentle, social, easeful end of year, just acknowledging that this is a first step to starting to meet in person, and that there's no expectations and no offering, just something gentle. And the other is, like, there's aliveness for offerings, for a container that would hold some offerings and hold some like the open space weekend that we did. Like, there's enough emerging that we could have an event day where we brought offerings. And my sense is that's not what December is for. My sense is that's the thing that we could do in January. And I just want to add a piece here, that we did have a NVC Hub meeting. And in that NVC Hub meeting, there's been conversation started about offering something to the community over the December, January time, which would mean that there was support for the connecting, and there was support for just the sort of coming together and being able to have empathy for each other for whatever we've got going, happening in our world, a safe place to land, where sometimes Christmas can be a time when it's not very like I think I would like to hand this over to Chris and Shez, Elena to speak to as well. But my sense is that might meet the need of what the December initially, what that easeful, gentle time to connect, and may not be in person, but I think it would go good part way to meeting that need of easeful connecting. Yeah, I'm sort of going a little bit roundy. I still haven't decided in my own head whether or not to name a day and a time for a gentle get together. And if we were going to do that, when? Because, and I think I'm circling away from it because I'm scared to go, we should make it this Saturday and we should like it this date and between these times. I think I'm hiding from that. That's what's needed if we're going to have a get together in person by the river, like something gentle and easeful, just to celebrate a first step towards meeting each other in person and an acknowledgement of the year that we've had.
It's more than that. It's more than acknowledgement. It's more than reflection. It's about building friendships, not just the business side. And we're getting too lost in the business side because there are some lovely connections that are forming that haven't had a chance to grow because it gets busy. And I feel like that's what I'm sensing in this is like, oh, this is a solution to that. I don't want any solutions. I want something that just says it's time to connect just as who we are, because who we are is what makes this group special.
Thank you.
Hi, Irene.
Hello, sorry, I missed it.
Hi, Irene. We're talking about what the possibilities are. Trying to toss around the possibilities of a gentle, casual get together in person is a possibility, and another possibility is an actual event, possibly in January, where there are some offerings. And Shez was just talking about how much value there is in remembering we're coming to know each other as friends and honouring that. I think supporting that to happen more, perhaps, with the idea, Shez, of that being in person really supports friendship.
Yes, and it shifts things again, but it's that, like you were talking about earlier, that ability to spend time one-on-one and just connect on a different level.
I'm remembering, thank you, Shez. I'm remembering that when I spoke to Annie, she's been away in the last week at the beach, and then she's got a few things happening, and then she couldn't join us again until the week of the 4th of January, from the 4th to the 8th. And it was in that week that she could join us. And so I bandied around the idea, oh, maybe we could shift the in-person get together to something on the 8th, which is a Friday, because I was remembering that maybe Jen doesn't work on a Friday. It was some sort of like, oh, maybe we'll start to see whether or not we can hold everyone's needs as mattering and start to name a date not in December, but actually in that early week of January, which sort of has the vibe of ease and quiet, like none of us are working at that time anyway. And so I have remembered that it did come up with Annie. And that just meant that in that week, if the weather was terribly hot, like if we earmarked the 7th or the 8th, that Annie's is at least big and open and spacious and has fans, so we can be a little bit cooler and out of the direct sun if it's a really hot day, and that she's still guessing that she can offer the studio at that point. So I'm wanting to just maybe suggest that we hold lightly the idea of moving whatever we thought we were doing in December to a new social only, getting together in friendship, seeing what emerges out of that, what conversations, what if it's a women's circle, then maybe we'll do some women's circle and some just social time, but something easeful. And we see if we put a little poll out, 7th or 8th, depending on which days people are working or not working or could have some flexibility in that week, and just see if it suits anyone, suits how people's schedules are or what they're doing, if they can come. So I'm thinking it would only be a few hours, like maybe 2 or 3 hours too. It wouldn't be a big all day thing. So gentle expectations on us for something social. And I would love to hear how that is. And I think I would, more than checking diaries right now, it's more about the sense of, does that sit in your heart with ease, that we just do something that's social and maybe a little bit like a circle, and that we don't make it a big chunk of time. How is that for people? And moving it to that week of January, is there a sense that that could work?
For me, I'm not certain what I'm doing early in January, but it's very likely to work. And yeah.
Thanks, Irene. Yeah. I have a sense, unless like I haven't booked any time away around there, like there's nothing in my plans that would prevent me from being there, that I know of at this stage either. So I have this sense of like open time. It's usually quiet time for me. It would fit really well to have something that's in friendship and doesn't feel like work or structure or needs lots of planning or anything. It's just sort of show up, be you, show up, we'll figure it out from there. That sort of warm-hearted vibe of like, let's just welcome each other and see.
Yeah, January always has a nice openness to it in my mind too, up until Christmas and the few days after that. It's sort of like this thick block of stuff going on, even if it's just in my head. And then after that, it's and I know that week I have nothing on. I won't be flying over to Melbourne, but I could imagine if the technology was working that I could Zoom in for some of it. And I was picturing that you know, that kind of casual gathering where people might bring some nibbles or something to share. You know, sometimes just having some food it's that thing you do together, that community thing. And imagining, you know, the joy of people meeting each other physically. This is where I'd love to be there. physically being there, and you know, that brings surprises too, because suddenly people look different to how they look on the screen when you only get this much. Yeah, and I can imagine some conversations about that would be something like, you know, what's the year been like for you? And yeah, you know, what's worked well, what hasn't worked so well, that kind of question too.
Yeah. I love that, because I tell myself that in all the years that I can remember of recent time, that early January time, I'm usually in a state of reflecting on the year that I've had, and in the what would I enjoy to make it important to myself for the new year. I'm still in that very incubator phase of my own dreaming of like what might be possible for this year, and I'm usually still in like, yeah, what did I really value? What do I see I've learned? Those sort of things. And I would love to share those sort of reflective questions. I think it's the fertile soil for the bubbling up of new ideas, new growth for the new year. And I don't think I want any expectations on that either. Like, I'm really happy if it doesn't end up being lots of questions, or like having that sense of like should or have to, just that it is really, that's sort of naturally what I'm doing at that time of year anyway, is bubbling on like, how was last year, what am I doing this year? So yeah, not in any structured way, just supporting each other to think about it if we want to. Thanks, Chris, that's lovely. And glad that you might like to pop in. That'd be lovely. I know flying you over would be possibly, you know, like an ambitious thing for this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Maybe we can plan it in advance. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, nothing. Well, yeah, it is a bit to do with this. One of my sons who flew over here from Melbourne in beginning of March for a family event we were going to be having. He flew over, leaving all his gear and his van in Melbourne because he'd been living there for a couple of years studying. And then he stayed, as did another son who came in from Queensland for our family memorial thing we were having. So they're still here, and the van is still in Melbourne. And we've been saying to Simon, oh, maybe now the borders are opening, we could go to Melbourne and get your stuff and drive the bomby old van back home to WA if you like. And I kind of, in the back of my mind, think, yeah, I wouldn't mind going to Melbourne at the moment, or soon, or in the next few months. I've got lots of friends there now.
Well, let's cross fingers for that. That sounds like an adventure.
Yeah.
I can hear your bushka meowing in the back.
Yeah.
Shezalena, do you want to say anything? Oh, you're going to, yep. What about you, Shez? Shez, not Elena.
I think I've said a fair bit already.
Does that,
No.
what about the idea that Karen's talking about, that proposal of putting out there to check who's open to doing something in person, gathering for 2 or 3 hours on the 7th or the 8th? That sounds like that's the emerging idea at the moment.
Well, if it's changed, something has to be put out to say that it's changed and what the shifts are, I guess. So yeah, it's just working out where to from here, really.
Does it occur to you as something that you're in favour of, this shift that's happening, Shez, or how is it occurring for you?
Yes. but I was thinking maybe we could just have a girls' night and have some fun.
I see cheeky, sparkly eyes when you said that.
Maybe you could do that too. Like, doesn't have to be either this or that.
I know.
Yep. I'm hearing actually that this is open space to propose whatever we want to propose and invite people and see who can come. Like this is not a top-down prescribed event where all wise women rising identifying women need to foot their butts into the said day and time. Like it's not like that at all, is it? So it's really there is a sense in me that I can call it, like this is an event that I'm calling now. It's not in December and it's not in that energy of like have to and should. It's actually in the spacious not knowing time in early January, and it's more social and it's more come and connect and reflect and enjoy some nibbles. And it's I'm going to just pick the 8th and then see if it doesn't work. We'll move to the 7th, or we'll see what's around that date that what might work for everyone. But I just name it as the 8th and see how that lands. So I'll put a little note about that, a little mini story on a post on the Facebook group, and invite people to that on a Facebook event, and just let people know. They can let me know whether they can come or what their thoughts are, feedback. So I'll commit to doing that. So thank you, Shez. There's an action to come out of your request to let people know and to sort of name what it is that we are now proposing. So as I'm going to call an event like that as an invitation for people to come and play. So that's that feels clear, because then I know that it's a me thing, not a we thing, not trying to do everything for everybody. Like it's much more of an I social request. And then then there's room for everybody else to do that too, and invite and call forward what they would like to.
I hear that you're naming a date, and I want to question that it's a you thing, because various people, including myself, have had input into the emergence of this.
That's very true. That's very true. So it is a we I. It's a we I thing.
It's a we thing, and you are naming a date.
Oh, well, I hope that works for people. I look forward to seeing everybody. That's what's going on for me. That I'm actually, and I noticed, and I said it a couple of times last week, I feel a little like I'm just so full of everything that's happened this year. I do need some space time to like, clear and like let December be done, because I'm actually needing that empathy time of like, I think I do expect my brain to take on too much in December, and it attempts to work out a lot of stuff. I think that's what's in the way. There's this cloudiness of the December have tos and shoulds that I'm still working through.
Well, it's in the ether. It's the culture is for December to ramp up and be busy and going places and doing things, because that's what you should do, because it's the festive season, and my belly tightens just saying it, which is why I said I think I'd just like to meet, on the green grass under the trees by the river and just chillax. I don't want to be caught up in engaging in this really busy culture. It's just not what calls me. Don't think it serves either. I mean, it can be fun, but we get onto autopilot and just go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and eat too much, and then crash on Boxing Day. And I don't know. That's just me. Well, maybe it's not just me, because you want space too, Karen, and
Yeah.
Shez just wants something more relaxing, and yeah, so yep, sounds good.
Looks like we're at time. Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Sounds like you've got, we have got somewhere here. I heard Shez say a girls' night. It's sounding more like a girls' day during the day on the grass, or the evening or something.
Could be both.
Mm. It might roll on.
I keep picturing the boat shed.
That's great, because that was my thought
It's
too.
got the river, it's got the boat, it's got a beautiful restaurant. We could have lunch at the restaurant and then go sit on the banks of the river. You know, there's some lovely options.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
sounds like
that's-
it would suit Cherie.
That's where I was picturing it. Oh, do you know, Shez, that painting? It's oh God, Syrah,
Yeah.
with all the people on the grass, like a Sunday afternoon kind of, you know, not that it has to be a Sunday afternoon, but just that kind of slow time of just being there is what appeals to me.
Yum.
Yeah.
Wow. So are you, Karen, you're happy to take the next step of probably putting it out there? Like there's enough people here. I think I learned this from doing the come back with me thing, that if I'm a bit too loose about it, then it's a little bit hard for anybody to know if they're coming or going. But after a little while, you start to go, okay, there's enough energy behind this. I'll put it out there as an invitation now to come and do this. Who wants to come? And then we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of do it anyway, and who's there's there, like.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I feel lighter in my being for having trudged through I wonder why I'm making myself feel like I have to do it in December, like that. I feel so light, so much lighter and supported. Thank you so much. I feel really supported to be in my exploration of like what works, what doesn't work, for me and for everyone else. And I'm not pushing. I feel relief and a sense of more joy, that actually having something just social and easy is just so appropriate to the time of year, and so much gentler on us, and serves the connection that I was intending to serve all along. Like that was the intention, was to create something where we could connect. So yeah, I'm feeling yay. And I'm very happy to put a little event together for the 8th and put it out and just see the next steps of responses and comments and stuff. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate today's time being given to that intention. Yeah.
So it's 10:01. Shall we do a really quick? That's probably your checkout, Karen.
Yeah.
And Irene, in case you're wondering why I'm talking so much, I'm facilitating.
Yes, I gathered that, and I thought doing a lovely job, Chris.
So I'm just maybe a word or two from each of the rest of us, perhaps, to check out.
For myself, it's good to just reconnect, because there's lots of other things going on, and just to sit and be in the space. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for facilitating.
I'm happy, and just want to say, Karen, that there were valid needs that you were attempting to meet with what you were proposing initially. So I just want to hold that with compassion and care, and not like it was wrong, or it was, and the timing. Yeah, I like what's evolved, emerged, proposed. Thank you. And thank you for everybody's input.
I'm grateful to have seen everyone's faces and get to have got a little bit of clarity, and just wishing everyone a really lovely, peaceful week ahead. Especially you, Chesalina.
Thanks. Anything for you, Chris?
I notice I've moved on from that thing that was going on for a few months there, where I would struggle to come to the meeting, and now I was looking forward to coming today. It's just like, yeah, here are my friends. Hi. Well, see you maybe next Monday, and some of you will see Thursday for the NVC Hub.
Yeah. So next Monday is the 14th, and then we've got the 21st as well, if we plan to meet or not. It's in my diary. So, and I'm glad that I came, even though I'm a bit kind of groggy and sore and stuff from my shoulder surgery. I'm glad that I came.
I'm so glad you could come in too, Chesalina. And I wish you healing and speedy recovery from your shoulder, with your sore shoulder. And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for facilitating, Chris, and thanks everyone for coming.
Next time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye for now.